morning again. It's really good to see you all. Let's hope all of this does me some good. Oh, yes, thank you. So it's already been an emotional morning. I've struggled with an overflow of emotion now for several weeks. So I see Fiona waiting out there, and I start to cry when I hug her. I hope I don't start to cry again. Yeah. I was struggling with the title of my talk. You can hear me okay? Okay. So I have something wrong. Oh, that, yes. Thank you. Andrew. I'm sorry, it's good to see old friends. Oh, geez. Yeah, so this has been a real emotional roller coaster for me, especially lately. My cat's been sick. Let me just say, first of all, whatever I might say in the way of Dharma, do not believe a word I say. Don't believe it. Please, please don't believe it. Find out for yourself. So my cat's been very ill. I've taken him to the vet. David's taken him to the vet at least 4 times in the last 3 weeks, and he appears to be ill. We're going to have to spend a lot more money on him. It has thrown me for a loop. I get upset when he doesn't eat. It doesn't matter. So that's part of it. But circumstances just seem to get more and more untidy, don't they? And I won't go into detail. The muddy water seems to be rising up on all sides, threatening to engulf at times. I have even found myself questioning where to put my confidence, what is truly trustworthy. Norm, and I'm going to say this now, although it's somewhere written down here later, Norm gave a wonderful answer to my question about where do we put our trust and confidence. And I could not begin to repeat what he said. It just deeply touched my heart. So I suggest asking Norm that question. But I am going to talk about that. We're taught that what shows up as real, solid, and substantial, and subject to very slow, often painful, or even sudden, often tragic change, is our illusory appearance. Don't believe me. It is empty of self-nature. How does one trust that? I've been wrestling with the question throughout the pandemic. I've been unable, well, that's not true. I wrote here, I was a little depressed last night when I wrote this. I've been unable to answer this question for myself, but answers do come and go. As I said, I couldn't begin to repeat what Norm said that I found so reassuring, so helpful, so kind. It was, as I put here, gloriously unrepeatable. The answer came from the whole. It also came from his heart. It came from the heart mind, from the whole, from entire being, from all beings, from totality and oneness. My one consolation is that since it deeply touched me, I definitely heard it. Even though at this place whence what Norm said came is where we can put trust and faith. So where this came from within Norm, but also from the whole universe, this is what's trustworthy. We can put our trust in that. And we're actually always in touch with that, but don't believe me, because sometimes I'm not in touch with that. So what came to mind was what Norm was speaking of is what Dogen talks about in the Genjo koan. And I'm going to paraphrase here. The Genjo koan says, to let or to allow all beings to come forth and confirm the self is enlightenment. All beings are coming forth and confirming the self. And it's also in the Song of the Jewel Mirror Awareness. You are not it. It is actually you. This is to allow all beings to come forth and confirm the self. This is relinquishing concepts, ideas, thoughts. When I talked to Norm recently, I was feeling very discouraged. I called him up, actually. I made some stupid comments about maybe not practicing anymore, maybe giving up, maybe, it was all very stupid. And he says, just let it all pass through. Just let it all pass through. Anyway. I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I'm going to switch topics here, about the experience. So after I call Norman, I say, maybe I don't want to practice anymore. Maybe I want to just give up. I had signed up to do the extended zazen, signed up to be the doan. This is only the second time I've done the extended sitting, the extended zazen on a Saturday. And I've been the doan both times. And what there is about being the doan is it's a kind of dance that goes on. I have to be fully in tune with what the doshi does when he enters the zendo, because I have to time the 3 bells that start zazen with his movements. So it is this dance that goes on, this beautiful dance. And then I have to be fully attuned to the length of the sitting period, 30 minutes. The ringing of 2 bells to end sitting and to signal the start of walking. And I don't do my own walking meditation. I'm having a little trouble with my right hip. So somebody does that. But then there is the resumption of sitting with 3 more bells. So this is a responsibility that I actually take very seriously. I've heard at least one person express a lack of confidence in the doan, in the doan's ability to stay awake and keep accurately the length of time of the sitting period. So I will confess to at times having, as I'm watching the clock get closer and closer to the time when I need to ring the bell, sort of drift off, even fall asleep, but then I have to bring myself awake. And as yet, and this is not bragging, I haven't missed the time when I'm supposed to ring the bell. I'm just saying this to instill confidence in anybody who might lack it in me. But anyway, what the situation points to in a small way is the interdependence of all participants, including the clock, including the cushions, the chairs, the floor, the windows, the rock. I definitely skipped a whole bunch of pages. The candle. The entire universe is present right there, right here. At the end of the extended sitting, Steve Matushak reminded us of the interdependence of what was going on right then by thanking us for supporting each other in our practice. I also take that responsibility very seriously. Without you guys, I couldn't do it. Um, this is one example of how we actually are living inseparably with all beings. When we drive inseparably from all beings. When we ride the bus, we ride inseparably with all beings. There's nothing outside of this moment. I also want to thank someone who's not here. I learned a valuable lesson. It was very helpful. The other day after, I think it was Steve's class, I had worn this vest into the class and put my keys, the keys to what allows me into the building, into the office, the Hojo, in the pocket of this vest that I don't even own. It doesn't even belong to me. It was left behind by a man at work who gave me permission to wear it, but I was cold, and I was cold downstairs, so I wore it, and I'd stuck the keys in there, completely oblivious to what I'd done. So at the end of class, let me just say, well, first of all, let me just say, before I say what I had, part of my job is to review claims that parents file for children, their children, to put them on Social Security disability. And a lot of claims that I see are for parents who file for children who have autism. So autism is an interesting disorder, and these children struggle quite a bit with things like changes in routine, with getting very fixated on a particular stereotypic interest or behavior, like lining things up in who knows what order. Very difficult to disengage them from that. Their interests tend to be very unusual. They don't tend to include other people in their play. Their play tends to be somewhat unimaginative. If you try to enter into the play with them, they don't respond to their name. They don't share attention with you. You might look toward an object, a toy, but it's very difficult to get them to it's very difficult to draw their attention to the toy because they don't engage in what's known as joint attention. So all of these are sort of signs, and language is often disrupted in autism. So they don't respond to their own name unless maybe their parents call it. And any attempt to change the way they have organized their lives in this very sort of stereotyped, silent, not responding to others around them, often results in what I see these psychologists and these parents call meltdowns. So I've become a little annoyed with the term meltdown. And they also have temper tantrums. It's difficult for them to take the perspective of the other person. This is known as, by the way, theory of mind. That's the ability to understand that you're not the only one with thoughts and feelings, that other people have thoughts, feelings, that sort of thing. So that's called theory of mind. Anyway, so I'm looking for these keys. I can't find these keys. When I'd stuck them in the pocket of the vest, very mindlessly, by the way, I'd totally forgotten I'd done that, not even my vest. And so one of the people there had her stuff out on the bench, and she said, I just saw them there. And I got annoyed, and she said, just go through your stuff. So I'm tearing my purse apart. I'm going through the pockets of my coat. Didn't even occur to me to check the pockets of my vest. And I'm annoyed with her, and I'm annoyed with the whole situation because she was the last one to see the keys. And she's very patient with me while I have my meltdown. She said, just go through everything carefully. So then, sort of wearily and in disbelief, I reach into the pocket of the vest, and there are the keys. And I felt enormously grateful to her for that. So this person rides the bus to and from Dharma Field for class and for Friday night meditation. So I took her home. I drove her home. And in the process of doing that, skipped over all this stuff. Here it is. I realized a number of things. I realized, as I did when I was being the Doan for the extended sit, that it's important to me to be of service, that it's important that there's relief and escape from this sort of pervasive sense of depression and anxiety that I've been wrestling with. So to take her home was an expression of this this interdependence, this, so she has to get in the car and trust me to drive us there to where she is safely. And I have to trust her to give me the directions to get there so that I can find my way back, because I have a terrible sense of direction. It's late, it's dark. And then I'm dependent upon the car. She's dependent upon the car. Other drivers are dependent upon me to observe all the twists and turns in whatever the name of that road is. What's the name of that road? Interlocking, twisty, turny. And then there are all these gorgeous Christmas lights that I could easily get distracted by. So I'm focused because it's a slow road. You have to drive slowly. So here's all this. So the whole universe is present there. The darkness, the light, the contrast, our mutual interdependence on everything that's going on right in that moment. And I felt a great deal of gratitude to her for allowing me to do this. Oh, dear. Sorry. Oh, no, I'm not sorry. Forget that. So, in Meditation Now or Never, I love this book. I struggle with some of it, but I love it, or I wrestle with some of it. Steve reminds us that the Chinese character for Zazen, or sitting meditation, is two people sitting on the earth. This is a very subtle, profound teaching. On page 68 of this book, Steve says, this Chinese character illustrates how we should understand meditation practice as inseparability from others. As we meditate, we are here in the universe, on the earth, with all beings, driving down Interlaken Road, dependent on my car, dependent on this woman to get me to her place, dependent upon my memory to get me back, dependent on my ability to stay focused and keep everyone safe. Even if I were to do the unthinkable and abandon this practice, it doesn't change the fact that this inseparability is truth. It's the truth of who we are and how we experience reality. So the problem was I didn't number the stupid pages. So on page 68, Steve continues, you cannot meditate in your own egoistic world. If you're caught up in yourself, you're not meditating. Did you want to come in? Okay. He goes on. One reason why it's important to meditate with others is because it reminds us of how we actually live in this world. It shows us how our life is interdependent with the lives of all beings. In meditation, we step outside of ourselves and into the vast open space of selflessness. That sounds like such a huge step, doesn't it? Sort of like taking a step from the spacecraft onto the moon into the vast open space of selflessness. However, it's not like that. It's right here. That vast open space of selflessness is actually where we always are. And to experience that is to open our hearts to all beings. Anyway, I don't know how long this talk is going to be. Oh, yeah. I wanted to read something from Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, along these same lines, I think. So I've been struggling with this, not struggling, I hate that expression. I hate it like I do meltdown, because I read this all the time in the medical records that I review for my job. People struggle with this and they struggle with that, and they may or may not actually be struggling. But anyway, so this is a passage that Suzuki Roshi quotes on page 31. And I'm not sure I fully understand it, but I think it's illustrative of what I've been talking about. He quotes Tozan, and I'm not going to go into who Tozan is, except in the word Soto, which is the Zen school. How do we put it? Soto Zen. This is Soto Zen rather than Rinzai Zen. Tozan is the toe of Soto. He is a famous Zen master, and he said, "The blue mountain is the father of the white cloud. The white cloud is the son of the blue mountain. All day long, they depend on each other. And yet, all day long, they depend on each other without being dependent on each other. The white cloud is always the white cloud. The blue mountain is always the blue mountain." And Suzuki says, this is a clear, pure interpretation of life. There are many things like the white cloud and blue mountain, man and woman, teacher and disciple, husband and wife. They depend on each other. But the white cloud should not be bothered by the blue mountain. The blue mountain should not be bothered by the white cloud. They are quite independent, yet dependent. This is how we live and how we practice Zazen. So the white cloud needs the blue mountain to show up. The blue mountain needs the white cloud as the white cloud. The white cloud needs the blue mountain to show up as the white cloud. And the blue mountain needs the white cloud to show up as the blue mountain. And this is how they are totally dependent on each other. And yet they are completely independent of each other. They don't bother each other. And I've been thinking about this in part. I'll come back to this because recently David said to me that perhaps I shouldn't give another talk until I can practice what I preach. And really, to a large extent, I don't, although I do. So it depends. But I need those reminders. They're very important. That's why I say, don't believe a word I say. So I'm dependent on David to help me show up in certain ways, but I'm also completely independent. I can give a talk. I can speak from my heart to the best of my ability. So in the paragraph preceding the story about oh, by the way, the story of the Blue Mountain and the white cloud, what brought to my mind was the teaching from the Xinjiang Ming on, this is not to, this Blue Mountain and white cloud. This is the not to. In the not to, nothing is separate, nothing is excluded. Anyway, so Suzuki says in the paragraph preceding this story about the Blue Mountain and the white cloud, you may say, this is bad, so I should not do this. Actually, when you say, I should not do this, you are doing, not doing in that moment. So there is no choice for you. I'm not sure I fully understand what he says here. When you separate the idea of time and space, you feel as if, so time and space are, as Steve has pointed out, illusory appearances, but we can't really separate them. They're completely dependent upon, time is completely dependent to show up as time based on space, and space is completely dependent upon space to show up as time. But when you separate them, you feel as if you have some choice, but actually you have to do something. You have to do not doing. Not to do something is doing something, and good and bad are only in your mind. Instead of saying bad, you should say not to do. If you think this is bad, it will create some confusion for you. Why is that? Why would it create confusion? Well, my understanding of this is that it creates confusion is because in this not to, nothing is separate, nothing is excluded. As the Xinjiang Ming says, gain and loss, right and wrong, away with them once and for all. This polarization, this duality is not really what is going on. So when we say this is bad or this is good, we've separated, we're operating under the illusion or the delusion, depending upon how tightly we hold to it, that we're actually separate from this good or this bad. But reality, totality, wholeness, it's all inclusive. Nothing is excluded. So that's why it's confusing for us. In Suzuki, I love the way how Suzuki refers to this. He says, in the realm of pure religion, so beautiful, there is no confusion of time and space or good and bad. All that we should do is just do something as it comes. Do something. So this person helped me go through the pockets, helped me go through and find the key, even though I was probably annoying the crap out of her and she was annoying the crap out of me. We found the key. Whatever it is, we should do it, even if it's not doing something. We should live in this moment. So when we sit, we concentrate on our breathing and we become a swinging door. And we do something we should do, something we must do. This is Zen practice. In this practice, there is no confusion. If you establish this kind of life, you have no confusion whatsoever. But don't go after this. Don't chase after this. Don't hold on to it. Don't cling to it like a belief. Just see what needs to be done in this moment, as David is fond of saying. I came across this really interesting passage in Wang Po. And I don't know if Steve talked about it or not. I don't think he did. I'm trying to decide where to start with this. So Wang Po, as you may know, is constantly exhorting us to release conceptual thought. I won't say get rid of conceptual thought, because as Steve points out over and over in Meditation Now or Never, the mind that seeks to rid itself of anything is a disturbed, confused, agitated mind. It is not the mind of awakening. It is not a peaceful mind. And he also observes over and over again in Meditation Now or Never that just to allow the mind to settle without seeking after anything, without trying to accomplish anything. The mind will settle of its own accord, because that's the nature of mind. It will settle of its own accord. That doesn't mean it will stay there. We have to come back. We have to let what shows up, as Norm says, just pass through. So Wang Po is constantly exhorting us to do just that. He says, give up those erroneous thoughts leading to false distinctions. There is no self and no other. There is no wrong desire, no anger, no hatred, no love, no victory, no failure. Only renounce the error of intellectual or conceptual thought processes, and your nature will exhibit its pristine purity. That's what, in Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, Suzuki spends a lot of time talking about who we truly are. Anyway, only renounce the error of intellectual or conceptual thought processes, and your nature will exhibit its pristine purity. For this alone is the way to attain enlightenment. Attain is a tricky word. This is the way to practice enlightenment, as Dogen would say. To observe the Dharma, to become a Buddha, and all the rest. And actually, as Wang Po says over and over again, the one mind is Buddha, and all beings and all Buddhas are the one mind. So there is no separation between Buddha. There is no becoming a Buddha. That's our true nature. He says, unless you understand this, the whole of your great learning, your painful efforts to advance, your austerities of diet and clothing will not help you to a knowledge of your own mind. I'm not going to go on, except then he goes on. He says, I'll get it. Then he says, that was just to get your attention. He quotes, he says, how can you expect to gain such knowledge from books? If only you could comprehend the nature of your own mind and put an end to discriminatory thought, there would naturally be no room for even a grain of error to arise. Ching Ming expresses this in a verse. I was fascinated by this because I couldn't find in all of our study of Wang Po any references to practice, to Zazen. And here, Ching Ming apparently says, just spread out a mat for reclining quite flat. When thought is tied to a bed, like a sick man growing worse, all karma will cease, all fancies disperse. That's what is meant by Bodhi. I was just when thought is tied to a bed, like a sick man getting worse. He goes on to say, were you now to practice keeping your minds motionless at all times? And here he's speaking directly to practice. Whether walking, standing, sitting, or lying, concentrating entirely upon the goal of no thought creation. Now, let me just be very careful with that. Treat that very delicately, because there is no goal. There's just this concentrating, this noticing, this mind that likes to move around, jump from object to object, concept to concept. Just noticing that. We don't have to grasp anything. We don't have to try to do that. Is to make the mind more disturbed, to stir it up even more. But nonetheless, his point, were you now to practice keeping your minds motionless, whether walking, standing, sitting, or lying, concentrating entirely upon no thought creation, no duality, no reliance on others, and no attachments, just allowing all things to take their course the whole day long, as though you were too ill to bother. I just love that. Unknown to the world, innocent of any urge to be known or unknown. You know, it means a great deal to me to come here and talk, but I get so anxious because I have this big desire to give a good talk. And I love what he points out here. He says, unknown to the world, innocent of any urge to be known or unknown. Good to observe that in my own mind. Innocent of any urge to be known or unknown to others. And then he says, with your minds like blocks of stone that mend no holes. So we're not trying to fill in any gaps in our thought, in conceptual thinking, plugging in some sort of new idea, new concept, just like he says, blocks of stone that mend no holes. Just letting it be, letting it be. Then all the dharmas would penetrate your understanding through and through. In a little while, you would find yourselves firmly unattached. Thus, for the first time in your lives, you would discover your reactions to phenomena decreasing, and ultimately, you would pass beyond the triple world. The triple world. Is that the world of form, formlessness, desire, form, and formlessness? The triple world. That's all I'm going to say about the triple world. I'd have to study it to say more about it. So that the triple world, the realms of desire, form, and formlessness. So anyway, ultimately you would pass beyond the triple world, and people would say, without your caring, that a Buddha had appeared in the world. Pure and passionless understanding or enlightenment implies putting an end to the ceaseless flow of thoughts and images, for in that way you stop creating the karma. And then he says that leads to rebirth, whether as gods or men or as sufferers in hell. So he's talking here about the 6 realms. These are the realms of the hell realm, the hungry ghost realm, the animal realm, the human realm, the Ashura or jealous god realm, and the celestial realm. So these are states of mind, and we can observe how we can move through those realms all day long. They're just states of mind. So when he says not a particle of karma is formed, once every sort of mental process has ceased. So in that moment, we're not acting out of our own desires, our own selfish intents, out of our own ego. In that moment, we are, how does the Shin Ching Ming put it? We're neither loving nor hating. And we can see, what? Right, yes. I will get the exact quote. It's a great quote. Thank you. For the unified mind. So he's talking about this, a unified mind in accord with the way. This is not a mind that's pursuing, this is not pursuing one's own desires, trying to achieve something. This is becoming the anonymous Buddha, not known to anyone. For the unified mind in accord with the way, all self-centered striving ceases. Doubts and irresolutions vanish. Faith is confirmed. Faith is confirmed. So this is the faith I was talking about at the beginning of my talk. Where can we put our trust? Where can we put our faith? This is where thought is useless. Echoing one poem. This is where thought is useless. What sense or feeling cannot fathom. In this world of suchness, there is neither self nor other. To come directly into harmony with truth, all that can be said is not to. So I think that's what Suzuki was pointing to. The blue mountain and the white cloud, not to. Completely dependent, yet completely independent. Anyway, so he says some very interesting things, but I don't think I can talk about them right now. I'm going to mess it up. But I want to remind you of what he says at the beginning, to remind you what he says about who we truly are, which could be the title of this talk, since I haven't come up with a title, who we truly are. He says, all the Buddhas and all sentient beings are nothing but the one mind, beside which nothing exists. This mind, which is without beginning, is unborn and indestructible. He says, unborn in the sense, in the footnote, that it belongs to no categories admitting of alteration or antithesis. I'm not sure I understand that. Anyway, unborn implies also the timelessness and boundlessness of this reality. And indestructible. It is not green nor yellow and has neither form nor appearance. It does not belong to the categories of things which exist or do not exist, nor can it be thought of in terms of new or old. It is that which you see before you. Begin to reason about it, and you at once fall into error. The one mind alone is the Buddha, and there is no distinction between the Buddha and sentient beings, but that sentient beings are attached to form, and so seek eternally for Buddhahood. By their very seeking, they lose it, for that is using the Buddha to seek for the Buddha. That is using the Buddha, our true nature, using the Buddha to seek for Buddha. Hear that. And using mind to grasp mind. They do not know that if they put a stop to conceptual thought and forget their anxiety, the Buddha will appear before them. their anxiety to get something, that thirst, that suffering that comes from the thirsting to get something. If they put a stop to conceptual thought and forget their anxiety, a Buddha will appear before them. For this mind is the Buddha. And the Buddha is all living beings. It is not the less for being manifested in ordinary beings, nor is it greater for being manifested in the Buddhas. So I'm going to stop there. I've definitely said enough, possibly too much. Don't believe a word I say. Questions, comments? A part of me wants to be that block of stone that mends no holes. I love that image. Mends no holes. Doesn't try to fill in any gaps with how we usually fill in the gaps. Yeah.
I just wanted to express my gratitude for you, Joel.
Oh yeah, I definitely had help with Steve from Steve. Steve did my walking meditation for me then. I mean, I'm grateful to you. Well, that's very kind of you to say. Thank you. I take my responsibility seriously. It's the least I can do for all that I get here. Any comments or questions from whomever? No. Okay then. Thank you so much.
Thank you.